Our new series where we're doing is called Better This Year. And many of us, I don't know if you make New Year's resolutions. A lot of people do that every year. The beginning of the year, they make some New Year's resolutions, which are great. One person I read describe a New Year's resolution like this. Making New Year's resolutions are like making babies. They're fun to make, but extremely difficult to maintain. And I thought, that's a good point. Some of the most common New Year resolutions, maybe you can see them. Maybe you'll realize they're like this. I'm gonna lose more weight, right? Okay. I'm gonna work out more. I'm gonna get my finances in order. Maybe I'm gonna get my spiritual life in order. So I make these resolutions, which are fine, and it's awesome. I found 3 resolutions that I thought were pretty doable. Number 1, in 2017, I will stop buttering my donuts. If you butter your donuts, don't do that. Please, it's not good. Number 2, in 2017, I will spend only the money that I have. That's good. That's good, right? Number 3, in 2017, I want to work on my low self-esteem. But I don't think I can do it. Right? It's okay to laugh in church, friend. It's all right. I know that we make a lot of New Year's resolutions around the beginning of the calendar year. Okay? In the scriptures, we see this theme about 32 times in the New Testament. And best expressed in the primary passage we're going to look at today in the book of Hebrews. It says this in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1, at the beginning of it. And let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. I thought it was very interesting that there's a race that we're on that has already been determined. It's already been marked out. It's already there, right? And we're running on this race together. And I don't know about you, but how many of you are springtime joggers? You know what I'm talking about? Some of you jog all the time, right? Like right now, today, you'll leave here and you'll go to Lake Sacagawea and you're going to run around the lake at 13-degree weather. It's awesome. You're not going to find me do that, all right? But we have this thing called springtime joggers, February, March comes, and I'm going to get back in shape, and so I'm going to start jogging, okay? We know the most difficult part of a jog or a race is not getting started. That's not the most difficult part. It's keep on going. That's the hard part, right? Until your lungs get in shape. And it's not just your lungs, your knees and your ankles and your hips and your joints. There's a place in our jogging life, in our running life, that we have to push past to get some benefit out of it. Okay? So New Year's resolutions and the desire to be better in 2017 comes from an inside determination. Right? Now, we all know this. I don't have to be a Christian to desire to do some things better. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to be a Christian. It's not like okay, if you're a Christian, you're the only ones in the whole entire planet that want to do something better, okay? No, you don't have to be a Christian to desire to do something better. But in every single person, we know it to be true. There's this inside drive or determination that I want to get better at something. I don't know what it is. Again, if you're buttering your donuts, can I help you? Don't do that. Okay, it's not good. It's gonna harm you in the long run. So let's look at 2 Peter chapter 1. Says this. It'll be on the screen. Make every effort to add to your faith goodness, and to goodness knowledge, and to knowledge self-control, and to self-control perseverance. Right? Now, in your outlines that you have, the program that you got handed to when you walked in, there's a connection card that you can fill out. There's some notes that you're going to take this morning. You see this biblical virtue that says, that you're going to write in here, perseverance. Okay, so it's a virtue. It's a perseverance. It's that inner drive, that determination. Most of us are aware of this, but being aware and being successful are not the same thing. Can we agree with that? Being aware and being successful, not the same, okay? I think using a more common term, I like this more common term on how to persevere, and it's in your notes, second blank there in your notes, it's how it happens is grit. I like that. There's a great book called Grit. It's called Grit. So there's this, how it happens. How do I persevere? It calls grit. Another great word you can use is maybe determination. It comes from the inside. There's something that you just got to get it done, right? Grit, determination. So you can say it this way. Grit, then, is the inward drive to keep on going when you're tired, hurt, or things don't go your way. So what is grit? Is an inward drive to keep on going when you're tired, hurt, or things don't go your way. Now, this morning, for example, all right? Have you ever done this? I had a couple boxes I had to bring to the campus, all right? It's about 6 o'clock this morning, and I came outside. I opened up, went to the garage, and I have these boots that I was going to bring down here. Why? Because I knew I had to throw out some de-icer so we don't trip and fall and break our necks, okay? And so I had the boots, and I put them by the front door, outside. Guess where I put them? Right by the front door, outside on the mat. So I came in, like, going back inside, hit him, came back out, hit him again, came back in, hit him, come back out again. The second time I did that, this is my thought. My wife is going to come out next. I know they're there, and I'm hitting them. Right? So I'm going to move them out of the way, husband points, out of the way, okay? So when she comes out in her high heels, she does not what? Trip and fall over the boots. Logical. So I moved them, went back inside, got the boxes, came outside, and I tripped over phantom boots that were not there. I tripped. I trip. Boxes go. Envelopes go. Twist my ankle. I'm laying on the ground, and I'm going, help! It hurt. Right? And I'm thinking, how? That hurt. Now, what is grit? I want to just go home, go back to bed. So I'm going to crawl myself in. It hurt, but I had this inner determination that I'm going to come to the church and preach the gospel today. Okay? Geneva's laughing at me, and it's a fun. Right? You weren't the only one. She laughed too. How'd you trip over the boots that weren't there? I don't know. It's okay. It's great. So two potential challenges in your notes regarding grit or determination, right? Two potential challenges that you and I may have. Number one, we don't have much. Two potential challenges regarding grit or determination. Number one, we don't have much. There are some people who don't have a lot of fight in them. To succeed, we need to have grit in 2017, friend, to succeed. Now, there's some, I love Christians. I am a Christian. I'm a follower of Jesus. I love Jesus, said yes to all that stuff. It's great. But there's some Christians, you start talking about being successful, achieving in life, reaching your full potential. They get a little funny about that kind of words. They don't like to hear that. Look, friend, God desires you to achieve in life, have an abundance, be successful, and be all that you can be in Christ. Okay? But it doesn't happen because the angel comes down and does a little fairy thing over your head. Okay? And we'll explain a little bit of that today. It's okay. We don't have much. There has to be, that's why you're here, some level of determination that, man, I want to succeed in my marriage, in my family, in my job, whatever, in my health. There has to be some determination to do that. So, number one, we don't have much. Number two, our bigger problem, maybe not yours, this is just me revealing my life to you today, okay? Number two, we apply it, what? Grit or determination, we apply it, in your blank, selectively. Let me give you an example. If this is you here, I'm sorry. But I'll help you change. Come join my growth group, okay? You see this with a 30-year-old guy who can't find or keep a job. Shows no initiative or leadership, but he is the team leader on Ghost Recon. Online gaming, Ghost Recon. Dude can't find a job, can't keep a job, can't keep a girlfriend. But man, you put him some headphones on and a little microphone and put him in front of his screen on Ghost Recon, and he is the alpha dog. All right? No. So what do we do with it? do I have grit, determination for my job, but not for my marriage? So we apply grit and determination, what? Selectively. I have it for my marriage. I have it for my family, but I don't have it for any other relationships outside of my circle of my family. I have grit and determination for going on vacation, but I don't have it for my finances. So I want to go on vacation, but I can't because I have no money. See what I'm saying? So the bigger problem is that our lives are not just spiritual. They're not just physical. Our lives are not just going to work. Our lives are not just my kids. There's this is that right word, holistic approach of life. And we see people out of balance because we selectively apply determination to succeed. So we're looking at, in Luke 19, at a person who had incredible determination, incredible grit. Jesus entered Jericho, Luke chapter 19, and was passing through. A man was there by the name of Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and was wealthy, right? Two things we know about Zach is this. He was a financial success, and he was a chief tax collector for the Romans, the occupying Romans, right? We know that to do that, he had to work his way up the ladder. So he rose to the ranks, okay, and he's a success financially and in a position of leadership. Zach wanted to see Jesus, see who Jesus was, but because he was short, he could not see over the crowd. That's a problem, okay? So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore fig tree to see him, since Jesus was coming his way. So we see two potential challenges that Zach has to fulfill what he wants to do. Number one, he is short. Number two, he's not popular. Okay? So Zach is short and he's not popular. Why is he not popular? Because he was extorting his own Jewish people out of money. So he wasn't like, man, he's a tax collector. Oh, Zach, come. We know you're short, buddy. Come on. Like me, right? Come on, Zach. Come to the front so you can see Jesus. You're a short guy. No, they're like, you are not coming up here. We don't like you. Okay, so he's short, not popular. Okay? And so what does Zach do? He decides to climb a tree. Why? He's determined to do what? See Jesus. Right? Now, for his social standing, that was pretty embarrassing, I'd imagine. But he saw something that he was pursuing as more important than maintaining appearance or his pride. Right? He saw something worth pursuing as more important than maintaining appearances or his pride. Now we see this grit or this determination pay off in a huge way as we continue on in Luke 19. When Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and said to him, Zach, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today. So Zach came down at once and welcomed him gladly. All the people, this is the great, man. All the people saw this and began to mutter, he has gone to be the guest of a sinner. To his surprise, I love that part. To his surprise. Now this is the key because this is how Jesus sees you as well. Jesus sees Zach's open heart and is more, he sees his open heart more than his messed up past. Right? He sees Zach's open heart more than his messed up past. Isn't that beautiful? And he says, hey man, I'm going to come to your house today. Now, the religious people are like, okay. Why? In that day, in that period of time, in that moment, it was a clear sign of what? acceptance and friendship. So here's these people. You have to get it, man. Here are these people. Here's Zach. They don't like Zach. And there he is. And he comes down. He says, hey, man, I'm going to come to your house. To us, like, hey, great. Who cares? To Zach, and at that moment in history, at that moment in time, massively significant. Because he says, you're my friend, and I accept you. Beautiful. So we understand that Zach didn't work for it. Zach didn't earn it. It was God's grace towards him. That's beautiful, right? So what does Zach do? Zach, he stands up and said to the Lord, look, Lord, here and now I give half of my possessions to the poor. And if I have cheated anybody out of anything, which he had, I will pay back 4 times the amount. So what is Zacchaeus saying? What is he saying? He is basically saying, I'm not only going to be right with God. Get this. I'm not only going to be right with God. I'm going to make things right as a reflection of being right with God. So this is this transforming work of God's grace. Not only am I right with God, I've had this inward transformation, but my life is going to change, and it's going to be a reflection of being right with God. Jesus' response to Zacchaeus is a very interesting response. Jesus said to him, today salvation has come to this house. Isn't that interesting? His response to Zacchaeus saying, man, I'm going to do this. Jesus' response is, whoa, wow. Today salvation has come to this house. Because this man too is the son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. So Jesus, before we get to the grit principle I want to give us in Hebrews chapter 11, I want you to understand what this means to you and I. What does this all mean, this interaction between God and Zach? We have to understand this. You can have real spiritual success. You can have real spiritual success, a vibrant faith, and your past cannot keep you from that. I don't care where you're from, what you're doing. You can have real spiritual success, a vibrant faith, and your past cannot keep you from that. But it will not happen by accident. Things just don't happen, friend. You have to work at it. And I believe God empowers your determination. For example, the number one struggle in marriages that leads to divorce is what? Is what? The number one struggle for marriages that leads to divorce is not pornography. It's not physical abuse, which is horrible, and both things are horrible, all that kind of stuff. It's not lying. It's not cheating. The number one struggle across the board, Christian, non-Christian, is money problems. We all know this, right? See, we can know something, but not make changes to do something about it. Right? Can I help us with something? This is personal. I'm going to give you some personal things to help you. You don't have to make $100,000 a year to have financial peace. You don't have to make $80,000 a year. Whatever number you think, man, once I get to that number, I am going to have financial peace. Because there's something on the inside that's saying that I'm not at peace. I need more money. If I have more money, I will be more successful. I'll be able to do what? Buy more stuff. Save for my retirement. So whatever that number is, you don't have to have that number. I'll tell you how you can do it right now with the income that you have right now. How to become financially successful right now. Spend less. Live below your means. Stop living off more than you make. Spend less. Live below your means. That will help you become financial success right where you're at. One more thing. If you will tithe, give 10% of your money to your church for God's work, He will bless the 90%. He'll do it. And when you're determined that God's work comes before your life, it moves you into doing what? Being a manager of His finances. See, when you determine I'm going to live off of 90%, it moves you into something that happens that's unnatural. It's supernatural. You're saying, I'm going to do this. God blesses that. And it moves you to be a steward of what he's already given you. Okay? Jared, do you do this? Uh-huh. I've lived off of 80% of my income for years. For years. I'm debt-free. Except for a car payment. Right? I was raised by a single mom. With 3 brothers, and we were raised on welfare because my mom was a drug abuser, a drug addict, and she had major issues. But I love my mama. Right? So I didn't learn this kind of stuff from my parents. You don't teach it to you in school either. Okay? You know where I learned this? From the Bible. And listening to other people who are at a place I wanted to be at. See, the minute we start talking about money and tithing, but we already know money is the number one issue. It's going to cause divorce in your family. God has set it up a certain way that doesn't have to happen. Right? I was determined to break out of a poverty mentality. It takes changing the way you think. And when you begin to change the way you think, it'll produce action in your life. Let me tell you, friend, God doesn't come down and go, sprinkle, sprinkle dust on us. He's giving us principles. He says, do this, this will happen. Do this, this will happen. How do we move into that? It takes understanding this important point. Grit and pride do not mix. Some of us in this room today, we're struggling in our lives. And you need help. You do. You're struggling. Our growth group sign-ups are at the table. I was so excited to walk by and see, you better sign up because you're not going to be able to get into one. People are like, yeah, I'm signing up, right? Groups for finances, group for marriage, group for kids, group for men, groups for women, groups for young people. Groups. Why? We can't do this life alone. Right? Some of us, we're not struggling. Sometimes you think about groups as like always going to group because you're struggling with something. No. Some of us need to go to a group because we can help somebody else. And we join together and we walk this Christian life out together. Grit and pride do not mix. We're a church community of people who need each other. So I'm going to have someone help me explain this in a different way. Chelsea's going to help me this morning explain this, and then I'll come back and give you the 5 grit principles. Things that shows that you and I have grit and determination. So we're here. Well, there's something on the inside that says, man, you know, for me to move forward, I got to do something different. Right? Grit principles taken from Hebrews chapter 10. Here we go. In your notes. Number 1, live in a broad context. 5 things from Hebrews chapter 10. Live in a broad context. We see that in Hebrews chapter in Hebrews chapter 10. When you read this on your own, chapter 10 and chapter 11, you're going to see a bunch of people that are just like they're called the great cloud of witnesses that are cheering us on, right? And we see this in Hebrews chapter 11. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, and I would encourage you to read through that, and in your daily Bible reading time, go into the Old Testament and find who these people are. I'll just point out one, Rahab. Rahab the prostitute who was used by God to save God's people. I mean, that is awesome, right? I think Rahab would tell us today, if she was here, it's not too late. He can take the areas where you feel most unqualified and give you a purpose in a way you can never imagine. Live in a broad context. Number 2, five principles that if we can do these things and maybe take the entire year to do them, right? Number 2, selectively declutter your life. Number 2, or intentionally declutter your life. Intentionality, man, is something that we have to have grit and determination. How many of you like you declutter things, right? You want to come to my garage? You know, garages are the greatest place it's filled with things that had been useful in the past. Right? Like I have paintball guns. I don't even remember when I played paintball. I don't even know where they even came from. They're sitting in my garage, right? But they're just, our garages are full of clutter because the stuff that I had to have, but now we don't use, right? What are those things in your life, right, that we need to declutter? Let me give an example that may help you have a better 2017. Maybe it's some friendships with people who honestly are more of a drag to where God wants to bring you than an encouragement. Doesn't mean you don't love them, but there are some friendships that you need to enter into with people who are going to get you to where that next level of life and faith is. But to do that, you got to declutter some relationships. And that's a hard one. Hebrews 11:1 says this, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles us. Now, depending how long you've been in the church, you hear that you read that verse, and many want to focus on that word sin. Yep, that's sin. That's right. That's holding you back. Sin. Man, I don't want you to focus on that word sin. I know we in church. Just be careful, right? I don't want you to focus on that word sin. I want you to focus on the word hinders. See, I want you to focus on the word hinders. Why? Because those things that hinder us are not always sinful. And most likely they're not. But they're hindering us from reaching the full potential that God has for us. Number 2 is intentionally declutter your life. Number 3, set and stay on course. Set and stay on course. John Maxwell says this, people have uphill hopes with downhill what? Habits. Can I help you with something? Hopes will stay hopes without a change in habits. I have uphill hopes, but I have downhill habits. And it seems like, man, I go up, and down. And man, look at the habits in your life. See, now some of us, we've been taught something about Christianity that's just not true. We just think God does everything. He did on the cross. It's all over. He did in his perfect life, his sacrificial death, all that great theology. But look, you on earth now, 2017, and you have hopes and dreams. It's going to take you to work it out. Right? There is no fairy dust. Only in the movies. All right? This means, stay on course means this. Set and stay on course means this. It means making some decisions and taking action and follow through. Take some action and follow through. Hebrews 11:1-2. And let us run with perseverance a race marked out for us. Now, I don't know what your next step may be in your life. But I'm going to share some things. There are definitely some next steps for all Christians. And to do that, I want you to take out your Connect card. Do you have a Connect card? It's inside your program. I want you to take out that Connect card that's in your program, and I want you to look on the back. Here are just some simple things that every Christian or possibly could do. Right? Number 1, if you're not a Christian, make a decision for Christ. If you do that today and you check that box, you drop it into the bucket, I will be in contact with you to help you take your next right steps and help you and direct you to the proper place, right? Make a decision for Christ. This is a time where we cross the line of faith. Number 2, there's membership. There's membership. This is where we connect into mission, ministry, and relationship in the church. Number 3, groups. I'll drive you crazy with groups because the groups is how you change. Groups is how our first step into our community. It's how you build relationship with one another. It's how you grow in the grace and knowledge of Christ. Number 4, baptism. It's where you go public with your faith. Water baptism, where you go public with your faith. Simple decisions and steps. Now, there could be 25 different steps we could put on that card that we'll never be able to, right? So what's the greatest step that we could take? Number 4, focus on Jesus. When I'm living my life, I focus on Jesus, who is what? The author and the finisher of my faith. He's the one that started this good work in us, and he will help us complete it. But it doesn't happen just because we sit there. All right? Fixing on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. This will produce grit or determination in 2 ways in your notes. When I focus on Jesus, it will produce 2 things. Number 1, trouble will not surprise you. Trouble will not surprise you. When I'm focusing on Jesus, when I'm determined to follow Jesus, when I'm determined to grow in the grace and knowledge, when I'm in community, when trouble finds me, it's not going to surprise me. When I walked out my door this morning, trouble found me. But though I was kind of surprised that I fell over the phantom boots. Okay? So trouble will not surprise you. Often we are shocked when life does not go our way. Life does not always go our way. But I'm a Christian now, Jared. Life is not always going to go your way. Okay? I didn't do anything. Life is not, it doesn't matter. Life is not always going to go your way. Okay? Number 2, success will not ruin you. Number 2, success. When I focus on Jesus, this will produce grit in 2 ways. Number 1, trouble will not surprise you. Number 2, success will not ruin you. Number 5, these 5 principles. Number 5, remember your why. Remember your why. There's an old saying, when you remember your why, you will know your way. Why are you doing what you're doing? Right? Hebrews chapter 11, verse 2 and 3. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross. Isn't that amazing? For the joy set before him, he endured the cross. Now for you and I, the cross, that is like, somewhere where I wear around my neck, or I have it tattooed on my body somewhere. The cross reminds me of what Jesus did. But for the joy, remember your why. For the joy, you were his joy. That was set before him. So he did what? Endured a torturous death. That's the point of the passage. Remember our why. For the joy, Jesus is our great example. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. So God brought us here together for a reason. I believe he's saying to you this morning, even if you can't do it, I can, so don't quit. I've been in full-time ministry for 20 years. I had someone ask me recently, Jared, how did you last so long in all these churches? You're in one church, you came here, you went through a transition, and then we're going through another transition, joining Timberlake Church. How did you make it through all the 20 years of ministry? Don't quit. Hey, Jared, you and your wife have been together since she was 14 and you're 17 years old, 28 years, you've been living together. We're married now, by the way. Anyways, how did you make it 28 years? Don't quit. Hey, talking to business people, how do you make it in business? Don't quit. What if it fails? Start again. Right? Well, my last marriage didn't work out. It didn't work out. What do I got to do? Okay, in your new marriage, don't quit. Don't give up. Don't quit. That's the greatest determination, grit. I will not quit. Let me pray for you.